know why so many of your resolutions have failed? Because you didn't focus enough on joy. You were far too easily pleased. You made a resolution about something you thought you ought to do or something that you thinly wished would be true, rather than something that was deeply settled and desired in your heart for change. You didn't pursue it from joy, with joy, and for joy. And so I want to help in this series. I want us to bring an approach of pursuing joy through making resolutions and seeing those come to pass in our lives. And I think that a missing link often in the pursuit of change is the cultivation of habit. And the missing link in pursuing good habits and cultivating good habits is the pursuit of our joy. That we would identify a reward at the end that matches up with a desire in our hearts and find life-giving, enjoyable ways to pursue those ends. So I want to welcome you to the series where we'll seek to work on that together and see how God might be pleased to make us men and women of His Word, of the Bible, or those who enjoy Him in prayer, or those who are more faithful and life-giving in the context of fellowship, or even some seemingly non-spiritual things that can serve great spiritual purposes, like our physical activity and exercise, or eating and drinking, and even our sleeping. And if you wonder, is it even Christian to make resolutions? I would say it can be. Depends on how you go about it. There's an example in the Old Testament of Daniel in Babylon resolving not to defile himself with the king's food. And in the New Testament, the Apostle Paul in Acts chapter 19 resolved in the Holy Spirit to pass through Macedonia and Greece on his way to Jerusalem. And this same Apostle Paul gives us what is our banner verse for this series. In 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, verse 11, he prays for his readers and for us that our God may make you worthy of His calling and fulfill every resolve for good and every work of faith by His power. That's what we want in this series. And by resolve here, the Apostle Paul doesn't mean some kind of thin wish or some fleeting desire, but he means a settled desire, an established desire, perhaps a conviction about life change. I want this to be different. I feel the pains of sin in my life, and I want this to be different. Or more positively, a maturing of the soul, the pursuit of ongoing holiness and growth in the Christian faith. And so Paul would have us move from that settled desire and in prayer ask for God's help in the producing of life change in us. So at the outset of the series, I want to encourage you in 3 ways. Number 1, start with desire. In particular, find one thing perhaps. I know there's a temptation to look for 3 or 4 different resolutions to make. I would say focus on one. How has God been working in your heart? What conviction might you feel? What settled sense of a way in which you want to grow that you know in the end will be rewarding? Start with one. Start with that settled desire. And then second, seek to make it attractive in terms of the process and crafting a plan, something that will help you get into this new habit formation day in and day out. It might be the enjoyability of having a friend or family member participate with you, or having the accountability, or in some way seeking to supplement the discomfort of the new activity with something enjoyable in the moment. Seek to make the plan and the daily pursuit attractive. And then third, the long term, look to the reward. It is a profoundly Christian thing to look forward to the reward. Hebrews chapter 12 says that Jesus went to the cross for the joy that was set before Him. Christians are a kind of people through faith, through hope, who look forward to reward. And not just the long-term reward of what your new habits and fulfilled resolve will produce. Look to that too. But also in the moment, in the daily pursuit, joy by faith streams from the future into the present to make the activity itself enjoyable and to keep you going. If it's a resolve related to the Bible or prayer or Christian fellowship or related to exercise or related to eating and drinking or related to sleeping, there are ways in which to experience that reward even in the moment as you look forward to the great reward in the end. The resolutions that last are the ones that give rise to new habits, and new habits produce life change. Habit is the God-given, often neglected, missing link between good resolutions and real change. And the pursuit of your joy in the beginning and in the middle and to the end is vital in producing life-changing, life-giving habits. And if you're wondering how you might pray at the beginning of this series, that passage in 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, just one verse before, in verse 10, talks about Jesus coming back, Paul says, to be glorified in his saints and to be marveled at among those who have believed. This is an amazing thing. How will Jesus be glorified when he comes back? By his people, by the saints marveling at him. Through our marveling at Jesus, he's magnified in our lives. Through our being impressed with him, our seeing him as he's worthy to be seen and enjoyed and appreciated, he's glorified. He looks good in and through our lives. So you might pray like this for your resolutions, and this might help focus the selection of what key resolution to focus on. You might pray, Father, with your help, would you help me to cultivate habits that would help me to marvel more at Jesus, that he might be glorified in my life? Would I be able to see him with more clarity? Would I be able to appreciate him with more depth, with more thickness through the cultivation of these habits and the pursuit of this change? So I'm excited to walk with you through this series and pray that God would be pleased to use this as a means, as a help in your life for lasting change for your joy.